Okay, we begin today the Gemara on the Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis at the Mishnah on the bottom of the Amud. Stak the Heilige Mishnah, Hamoiche Peiris Lachavere. A person is selling produce to his friend. Hareze Mekabel Olav, the buyer is accepting in the produce that he buys, Roiva Tinoifis Lasa, a quarter of Tinoifis, which means filth or impurities, in this amount of a sa'ah. That's, in other words, that's considered to be usual and acceptable, that when you're selling, it can't be 100% clean. So therefore, when he pays, he's accepting this amount of a roiva, a quarter, in this sa'ah. This is a roiva of a kav, a quarter of a kav, in the amount of a sa'ah. Now, ta'enim, if you're buying figs, mekabel olav eser mutulois. You're accepting that 10 of these figs, lemea that is, if you're buying 100 figs, then 10 of them are going to be infested or wormy. Martav shal yayin, if a person is buying out a cellar of wine, mekabel olav esa kaisisais lemea. You're accepting that 10 of these barrels of wine are going to be sour wine, bad wine, out of 100 barrels. Kankanim b'sharein, if you're buying barrels in Sharein, which is an area in Eretz Yisrael, then I think Rashbam says it's a certain malchus. What? I think it's Jaffa. Yeah, and that's what they say there. It's a Haifa in the north of Eretz Yisrael. So Mekabel Olav Esa Pitisayis Lameya. You're accepting to get in these, if you're buying 100 barrels, 10 of them are going to be inferior quality barrels out of these 100. Sagt the Gemara, Tani Rav Katina taught about this. It said in the Mishnah that you're accepting a quarter of impurities out of a saw. Now, impurities means what? What is it exactly that it's impure with? So he said kitnis, lasa. This refers to kitnis, legumes that's going to be mixed into the grain that you're buying. So that means that you can't have shmutz, dirt that's going to be mixed in. It's only if there is other things that are not. It's not pure, meaning it's not grain, it's not kernels of wheat, let's say, or it's legumes that are mixed in, but. Other things that are mixed in will not be accepted. That's what it seems he's saying. So the Gemara asks him this: what does this mean? Does that mean that if there's dirt mixed in, that the buyer does not accept to be part of the sale? What happens if someone comes and a person has a pile of his grain? And you come and you pick out a pebble from the pile of your friend. So now, because you took out that pebble, you're gonna have to reimburse him and pay him the value of wheat. And the reason is because by you taking out that pebble, so when he sold it, and the buyer, when he accepts it together with dirt and together with pebbles in it, and he pays the full price for this. By you not taking out that pebble, you're causing him a loss in the weight of this, in the value that he would pay for wheat. So even though you only took out a pebble, you're going to have to reimburse this person for the price of the wheat. So what do you see over here? That the buyer does accept dirt or a pebble, which is like dirt, not just legumes, not just kitnis. So how could you say that in the Mishnah when it said roiva, it means only legumes that are mixed into this? Now the Rashbam points out that why can't this person that took out this pebble just put it back in? Why are we telling him that he has to pay a good quality wheat, a value of wheat for this? So Rashbam says, no, once you took it out, you're not allowed to put it back in. This whole halacha that we're learning here, that if there's dirt mixed in, that's part of the sale, that's if it was mixed in because it's coming from the ground. But to go and by hand put it back in, that you're not allowed. Rashbam says, like saso avdal, you can't sell wheat and add some dirt into it, part of the sale. And besides that, the Rashbam says that even though you didn't actually take wheat out, so you may argue that it's not mamish a direct damage that I'm causing because this person is selling wheat, and I took out just a pebble, which could have been sold, included in the value of the wheat. So the Rashbam first says that that's still called a mazik. You're still being mazikim directly with your hands, taking out something which would be charged like the wheat. Then another thing that Rashbam says, that this would be called garmi. Garmi is a kind of grama when you cause a damage, but it's a direct cause of damage that you're doing with your hands. Then you're going to be chayiv, even if you didn't mamish go and burn his wheat or take out some wheat over there, and that's why you have to pay back the value of this pebble like it was mamish wheat. That's Bekitzer what Rashbam explains here. Okay, so now the Gemara answers the question. And for the Gemara, kitnis roiva. that this that Rav Katina said that we're only talking about legumes that are mixed in, that's the shear regarding the shear that it said in the Mishnah, that the buyer is ready to accept a quarter of a kav mixed into a saw. So that amount of a quarter, that's only if it's legumes. Afruris, but dirt that's mixed in, the buyer also accepts a certain amount of dirt, but that's less. Pachas mereva, that's less than a reva. He accepts a little bit of dirt, but not like the amount of a quarter. And when it comes to dirt, the buyer does not accept the amount of a quarter of a kav in a saw. But vatanya in a brisa we learn, a person that's selling produce to his friend. So there's different types of things that you expect, different things to be mixed into it. Chitin, if you're selling him wheat, mekabel olav roiva kitnis l'sa. So the buyer is accepting that there'll be mixed in a quarter of kitnis into a saw. Sa'irim, if you're selling barley, mekabel olav roiva nishavis l'sa. What he will accept is that there'll be a quarter of nishavis, which is straw mixed into the chaff or the straw that's mixed into the amount of a saw. Adashim, if you're selling lentils, mekabel olav roiva afruris l'sa. So here, regarding the lentils, it says that the buyer accepts that there'll be a quarter of a kav of dirt that's mixed into the saw. So the Gemara says, my love, don't you think that just like it says this regarding the lentils, that similar applies also to wheat and barley? In other words, the way the Gemara understands it right now is that the Brisa is just dividing this by what's more common. That it's more common that there should be dirt here, but really the same thing would apply for wheat as well, that if there's dirt mixed in, even if it's the amount of a quarter of a kav in a saw, the buyer accepts this. So the Gemara says, no, it's not how you learn this. Now, Shani Adashim, it's specifically by lentils that the buyer accepts the dirt of that amount. Why? Because the Mecca Akriluhu, because the lentils, they're uprooted by hand, and therefore a lot of dirt usually comes along with it. But when it comes to wheat or barley, it's harvested, it's cut, it's not uprooted, so over there, you're not expecting to have so much dirt, so the buyer doesn't accept this. So the Gemara says, if so, we can bring a raya from this brisa to the point that Rav Katina said it. So Ela Taime da Adashim de Mecca Akriluhu. The reason why the brisa is saying only by the lentils that he accepts that amount of dirt is because it's being uprooted. Al Chiti is Sa'ari Loi. But by the wheat and barley, he doesn't accept this amount of dirt. So if so, Tifshet Mina, we can prove from here that Chiti is Sa'ari da Fruri Loi, da Fruris Loi Mekabel. That by the wheat and barley, he does not accept this amount of dirt. So this price is actually a raya to what Rav Katina said, that he does not accept that amount of dirt. So the Gemara says, not necessarily. La'olam chiti sa'ari mekabel afruris la'olam chiti sa'ari mekabel. Really, I can tell you that even when it comes to wheat and barley, he does accept the amount of a quarter of even dirt together with the sale. It could still be that's what this brisa holds. So why does it only mention the dirt by the lentils and not by the wheat and barley? Because afruris adashim itzrichalei. The brisa is saying a chiddush regarding the lentils that he accepts only a quarter of a kav of dirt. The reason is the salkatayt chamina, because I would think to say kiv in the Mecca kaluhu, since when it comes to lentils, it's being uprooted and a lot of dirt comes along with it. I would think that the buyer has to accept in the sale even more than a quarter of kav of dirt. That's the chiddush here. But the fact that it says the dirt only by the lentils, I would think it's being said there to tell you that it's only a kav. By the lentils, I would think that it's actually more, because you uprooted, there's a lot of dirt that comes along with it. Kamash Malan, that's what the Brisa is saying, that it's only a quarter of earth, that or dirt that you accept together with the lentils. So there's no raya from this Brisa to what Rav Katina said. Omer Rav Huna said regarding this halach here in the Mishnah. So again, what the Mishnah said, if we're going to learn like Rav Katina, that if there's legumes that's mixed into the produce that you're selling, so you accept up to amount of a roiva, a quarter of a kav, not more. If there's more mixed in, then he doesn't accept that. So Rav Huna said on this, what happens if a buyer is looking at the produce that he's buying and he sees that there's other things mixed in here, that there's legumes mixed in, and to him it seems that it's more than the amount that it should be. It's more than a quarter of a kav. So he wants to go ahead and sift it. And he sifts it, and he sees that it's taka more than a roiva kav. In such a case, once he's already going out of his way to go and sift it, he can sift it and now make it 100% pure, that there should be nothing else mixed into this produce. So in other words, the point that Rav Huna is saying is, when there's up to the amount of a quarter of a kav that's mixed in there, so then that's something that the buyer has to accept as part of the sale, and he doesn't, he's meichel that. But if there's more that's mixed in, so then in such a case, once he's already sifting it out because there was more than a reva of a kav, we're not going to tell him, okay, take out only up to that amount, that it should be now only a quarter. No, now you could sift it out that it should be totally pure. So Ma'afes Kula, you sift it out completely.
The Chiddush would be then that the seller can now up the price because I'm selling.
Yeah, exactly. It should. He keeps the same price, and now he can go and sift it out that it should be totally pure. Now the Gemara here.
So the seller can now
up
the price.
But he can't. No, he can't. No, he cannot up the price. So what? Once the Gemara here, will explain now.
He's telling them that this amount of dirt can go into your lentils. Fine, so you might get profit.
No, so the Gemara will explain. Let's see. The Gemara here gives now two different explanations for why this is. Amri lo dina. There are those that say that this halacha Rav Huna says is me'ikar adin, that it makes sense al pidin that this should be this way. V'amri lo knasa. And there are others that say that this is a penalty that Chachamim gave for the seller, that he still has to keep the same price and has to be pure. And the Gemara explains. Amri lo dina. There are those that say that this is me'ikar adin, and the reason is because really mandi yav zuzi, the buyer that's paying money, aperi shapiri yav. He's paying money for good produce. He's not paying money for produce which is mixed in with other things. He's paying money for good produce. So why do we say that when it's only the amount of a quarter or less that he accepts to buy it for what it is? Because the reason is because v'roiva letorechinish. Because when you have a little bit that's mixed in, so because of the exertion that it takes to separate the dirt or the legumes that are mixed in over here, it's such an exertion. So because of that exertion, he's meichel this. But if there's so much mixed in, he's ready to go through that and to take out that's more. He's already going through that tircha to take out what's more. So if even the tarach, once he's already going through the tircha and he's ready to take out what was mixed in here that's more, tarach bakule, he's ready to take it all out. So in other words, according to this opinion, the point here really is that he's not really be'etzem meichel. Really, a person wants to get pure produce. That's what he's paying for. He's not paying for dirt. He's not paying for legumes. He's paying for proper produce. Elamai, in a case where there's a little bit in it, and therefore it's a terche, mitzad terche, to take out that little, he's meichel. But in a case where there's so much mixed in, and he's anyways going to be emptying it out and sifting it out, so then he's going to be ready to sift out the whole thing, and he's not meichel. He wants to get the full, proper produce for his money. That's one shot. But another pshat is that it's a knasa, that this is a knas, because really we say that he is meichel. As long as it's the amount of a quarter, the person is meichel. Even if he's going to be sifting out, but that amount a person knows and expects, that's natural, but that there should be legumes or dirt inside, that he's always meichel. Elamai, but over here though there's a penalty. Why is there a penalty? Because we say as follows: Roiva shchiach, a quarter of amount of these impurities, that's common. So therefore we say that what happened here is the seller didn't put in any extra impurities here. That's just part of the way it comes when it comes from the earth. But Yaiser Leishchiach, more than a quarter is not common. So what could have happened over here is V'iyu Hu the Arev. It's the seller that went and mixed in more than there was there before. V'kiven the Arev. So since we have a concern that it's the seller taking advantage of this and he's mixing in more, Kansur Rabbanan Bakule. So here the Rabbanan gave him a knas that now that the buyer has to sift it out, so we allow him to sift out the entire thing for the same price.
What if there's less than a rova?
If it's what?
There's less than a rova. In other words,
and when he was sifting it out, it turns out to be less.
So what happens then?
So then l'chayre, he doesn't have the right to sift it out.
Well, he sifted it out already. It's already done.
No, so then he's going to have to pay a higher price. If when he's sifting it out, it was more, then we say this. But if it was less and he was being stubborn, let me sift it out. No, so then, yeah.
Then the seller can demand a higher price.
Yeah, l'chayre. Simin, the Gemara brings a simin for the questions that it's going to ask now on Rav Huna's halacha. Kol terei shtori de Ravn barav Nachman oino v'kabla nusa. Okay, so Meisvei, first the Gemara asks from a Braisa that it says regarding the halachas of Klayim. So the Braisa says, Kol sa sheyesh ba roiva mimin acher. Anytime you have a sa'ah, let's say you're using a sa'ah of wheat, you're planting wheat, and together with this wheat is mixed in a quarter of barley, of another min. So this is Klayim. So if it's the amount of a roiva, if compared to the wheat, there's a quarter of something else here, then you mayit. You have to minimize, it has to be less than a roiva. So meaning, it sounds like what it's saying over here is that by the halacha of kalayim, if what's being mixed in here together with the wheat is the amount of a roiva, that's a significant amount that it's called kalayim. If it's less than a roiva, that's not significant enough that it's called kalayim, and you don't have to take it out. So what does it say here? The Gemara is asking what the Braisa says, yemayit. If it has a roiva, so then you have to be memayit. It doesn't say that once it has that amount of a roiva, then take it all out. What it says is, make sure that what's mixed in is less than a roiva. Okay, so the Gemara is comparing it to our case as well. That why shouldn't we say similar here, that if there's more over here, the shear is different. Over here, the shear is that if it's more than a roiva, then it's a problem. So why shouldn't it say over here that if there's more than a roiva of these impurities in what you're selling, be memayit? You can sift it to bring it down to the amount of a roiva, but you can't clean it out completely, just like it is by the kalayim, that if it's the amount of a roiva, what does it say? That you have to be memayit, that it should be less mixed in than that roiva. Now, the Rashbami points out that the Gemara is asking this question from kalayim to this case of a sale, and the Gemara could have simply answered that it's no comparison b'chlal. Over here, when it comes to a sale, why are we comparing this to kalayim? By the halacha of kalayim, over there, it's based on the isser of kalayim, that when there's something significant mixed in, there's an isser of kalayim. If what's mixed in is a tiny drop and it's insignificant, there's no isser of kalayim. Over here, when it comes to a sale, here it's a svara of mechila. Is the person meichel or is he not meichel? Once there's already a significant amount that he has to go through the exertion and clean it out, so then he's ready to go and clean out the whole thing. The svara that we already explained before. So really, it's difficult to understand what's b'chlal the connection from kalayim to the case that the Gemara is talking about over here. But the Rashbam says that the Gemara anyways gives another answer, or a better answer than this. What does the Gemara say? Now, Savrua, the ones that asked the question, thought to say, the roiva, the kalayim, when it says there by the kalayim, the shear of a quarter, it's like the problem over here when it's more than a roiva, then there's too much mixed in. So over there by kalayim, what's considered to be too much? Not more than a roiva, but a roiva. And what does it say there by the kalayim? The katani yamayit. All it says there is that you have to minimize it. It doesn't say that once you're clearing it out, you have to take it all out. Like it says over here, that he's allowed to sift it all out. And says the Gemara, loy, that it's a mistake. Roiva the kalayim ki roiva the hocha. When it says over there by kalayim that if it's a quarter mixed in, it's the same like over here when it is a roiva. It's just like a roiva over here. What do we say over here regarding a roiva? A quarter is fine. When it's mixed in a quarter, that's something that the buyer accepts. Over there by the kalayim as well, if it's just a quarter that's mixed into this wheat that you're planting, for example, there's a quarter of something else mixed in, that's really fine. It's really not kalayim. And that's why over there, so the Gemara asks on this, the Gemara explains and asks, Ihachi, if that's the case, Amayamayit. So then if a roiva is fine, so then why do you have to minimize this? Why do you have to take this out? The answer is Mishum Chumre de Kalayim. That it's really minatayr, it's not a problem because it's not significant enough, but it's just a Chumre, the Chacham Machmer, that you should take it out. So because it's only a Chumre of Kalayim, so therefore all you have to do is you have to be Memayit. You don't have to take it all out. So therefore, you can't compare it to our case where we're talking about a sale where it's Me'ikar Adin. This is the Gemara here was asking according to the opinion of that explained to Rav Huna that this is Me'ikar Adin. Okay, now by Ihachi, the Gemara asks, if that's the case, that over there by Kalayim, when it speaks about the amount of a roiva that's mixed into as Kalayim, it's really something that Minatayr, it's not Kalayim. It's just a Chumre Midrabanan. If so, Ema Seifer. How do we understand another opinion here, which is Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi says that in such a case, Yover, even if you had just a roiva that was mixed in, you can't be memayit that it should be less than that. You can't take out just a little to make it less that it should be insignificant. But yover, you have to pick out everything that it should be totally pure. So why is that the case? So the Gemara asks, that when it says here in the Braise that there's amount of a roiva that's mixed in as klayim, so that could be compared. It's similar to the case of a sale where it's more than a roiva of impurities. So over here as well, when it's a roiva that's mixed into the kalayim, this is a problem in Eikar Adin. This is a problem in Atayra. So then I can tell you Bahaka Miflagi. Then it's easy to explain. This is the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi. Tanakama sovar loy konsin and Hatayra ot yisura. Tanakama holds we're not going to give this person a knas to totally clean it out in a case where you're just being memayit. It's enough just to be memayit that it shouldn't be the ism and Atayra. That's enough. And Rabbi Yossi says, once he was over on an Isser and he mixed in an amount which is awesome in Atayre, now we tell him you have to pick it out completely, you have to totally clear it out.
The inner klein is dafka by planting it.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, by planting it.
These grains are going to be used for planting. Not
Yeah.
necessarily he's going to grind them up with the flour.
No. Yeah, we're planting it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, planting it.
So, but in cooking there is no issa.
No, of course not. Yeah. But if you're going to say that even in the Tanakama, when it says that there was a roiva mixed in, this is not really kalayim and atayra at all. Even when he mixed in the roiva is even atayra is not called kalayim. It's just a chumra midrabanan. So if even what the Tanakama was talking about was just a chumra midrabanan, amay yover, why would Rabbi Yossi be so machmer to say that if the whole thing in the first place was just a isser of kalayim, it was just a chumra? Why would Rabbi Yossi be so machmer to say that he has to pick out every single piece completely? So the Gemara says, Hasam Haina Taima, the Rabbi Yossi, the reason why Rabbi Yossi was so machmer in this case is Mishum de Mechsi ki Mekayim Klayim. Because even though the whole thing was in the beginning just a chumra with Rabbanan, because a roiva is considered to be less than the shear that's asam and atayra, but nevertheless, if you see that there's still a little bit left over there, it still looks like Klayim. And Rabbi Yossi still is machmer that you have to pick out that Klayim. Toshima, the Gemara asks a question on Abhuna's halacha from a different brayso. Now, then all the questions that the Gemara is going to bring here is going to be according to the opinion that explained before, that according to Abhuna there's a knas. Even though a quarter of impurities he was allowed to mix in, but the moment he mixes in more than he's allowed, now we give him a knas on the whole thing, that we allow the buyer to clean it all out. That's the knas. So based on this, the Gemara asks, Tashema, it says in a Mishnah in Bava Basra, Shnayim shefkidu eitzel echad, two people gave money as a deposit, as a pekadon to someone. Zem mana, one gave $100, v'zem masayim, the other gave $200. Now, when they come to pick up their money, zem masayim shali, v'zem masayim shali. Each one of them claims the $200 is mine. So what do we do? So the halacha here is, Noisan lezem mana, you give each one $100, because that you know for sure is theirs. And v'hashar, and the remainder, the third $100, it stays there until Eliyahu Hanavi comes, because it's a suffix and it's in the hands of this person. We can't take it away from him, so it stays there until Eliyahu Hanavi comes. So what do we see here? The Gemara is asking. Here we see that the amount of money that we know for sure that belongs to each one of them that we give back. The third 100, which is a suffix, on that we say it stays there till Eliyahu Hanavi comes. We're not going to say that because there's a suffix over here, and because somebody is trying to deceive and someone's trying to steal money, that there's going to be a knas, that all of the money should be left there. There should be a knas on all of the money, that they can't take any of it. If so, similar over here, if this seller added extra impurities in it, the knas should only be for the extra impurities that he added. But the amount of a roiva, which is what is allowed to be there, why are we giving him a knas all the way, that now we are allowing the buyer to go and clean it out all the way? Just like over here, you don't give a knas all the way. Over here, you say that third 100, that's what the knas is on, but the knas is not on the rest. So over here as well, the knas should only be on the extra amount, but not on the entire thing.
So we answered mechila.
Again?
We answered that mechila.
Okay, could be. I'm not sure if that svara applies over here. Okay, I hear what you're saying. So the Gemara says, Hochi hashta, you can't compare to that case of by the pekadon. Why? Because Hassam, over there, vadei mana lamar, over there, it's a fact that 100 belongs to his and a 100 belongs to this. That there's no argument about. They're only arguing about the third 100, who that belongs to. Therefore, the knas is only on the third 100. But over here, what's our problem? Mi yemer delav kule aruvi arif. When you see that there's extra impurities here in what he's selling, it could actually be that the entire thing the seller mixed in. Maybe it was l'chatchila totally pure. Over here, there's a possibility that he mixed it all in. So therefore, when we give a knas here, once we see that there's extra, we give him a knas on the entire thing, that now the buyer has the right to sift it all out, to clean it all out. And then the Gemara asks a similar discussion. The Gemara says here from the next opinion in that Mishnah there. Tashema miseifa. What does it say in that Mishnah? Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said regarding this case, when one gave 100, another gave 200, and each one claims that the 200 is his. What does Rabbi Yossi say to do? You can't just say give each one 100 and then the third 100 will be kept there, because imkei ma hefsed ramai. What does the thief here lose by this? He took a chance. He's going to claim that 200 is his. What does he lose out if in the end you don't give it to him? So the other person loses, but he doesn't lose anything. Eli says rather, in order to take away the motivation of a thief to try to do this, after if each one claims it's theirs, the knas over here will actually be that all of the money has to stay there until the Eliyahu Hanavi comes. So now from Rabbi Yossi we see that in such a kind of a case, even though it's only the third hundred that there's a ganav here, but nevertheless there's a knas on the whole thing. So according to Rabbi Yossi, we have a raya to what Rav Huna said, that once we see that he added extra, so now the knas will be that we allow the buyer to clear it all out. Just like what Rabbi Yossi said over here, that we give a knas for the entire thing. So again, the Gemara says, and here the Gemara actually reverses the svara. Hachi hashti, you can't compare to that case because hasam vadai ikeramai. The reason why Rabbi Yossi says that over there you give a knas for the whole entire thing is because we know for a fact that someone's lying here, someone's trying to steal. So we need to do something to try to stop this person from stealing. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi says the only way is by putting aside the whole entire thing until that ganav will admit. But hacha over here though, we can't do that. Over here we could say mi yemed daruvi yarev, just like we said before, that it is possible that the seller mixed in all of the impurities here, but it's also possible that he didn't. It's also possible that there were the impurities that were there naturally, and he only added a little more. So how can we give him a knas for the entire thing? Maybe he only added the extra impurities, but the other impurities that are naturally there were there already from before. So there's a svara to say the opposite. We don't know 100% either way. It's possible that he added all of the impurities, but it's also possible that he didn't. So therefore, you can't compare to this case where it's clear that there's a vadei ramai. There's definitely a thief here.
You shouldn't have sold it like that.
Huh?
You shouldn't have sold it like that. That's what the knas is for.
That what? That there was more.
You're selling.
So we take.
Watered down.
That's the knas.
Yeah, but it's different
You don't
though.
sell it.
It's different though than the ramai over there. That there's a vadei ramai that he vadei added added extra over here.
Don't sell. Take it out. It's your responsibility.
Okay, I hear
to
what
take
you're
it
saying. Yeah. Okay. Tashama, the Gemara brings another ayah from another case, and here the Gemara goes through the same exact kind of answer. So now the Braisa is speaking about a person that's lending money for interest. Shtashe yesh bei ribis. If you have a document of a loan and it's written in it ribis, that he's charging interest. So kainsin oisai. So now there's the penalty. Ve'ene goive. You can't collect. The lender cannot collect this loan. Lo yasakerem v'lo yasaribis. Not the principal and not the ribis either. Divrei Rab Meir. That's what Rab Meir says. So here you see what was the isser. The isser was just the interest. But nevertheless, because he lent on interest, he can't now collect anything. So we should apply over here the same thing. That this is the same applies here. That you should say that because he added a little bit more, you can't sell any of the impurities here. You have to allow him to clear it all out. So again, the Gemara says, Hachi hashte, you can't compare to that case. Hasam, over there when it comes to the ribis, Mishas ksivu hu da avid leishuma hachi. That is. Over there, at the time when he lent him the money, he placed upon him a charge of interest. He's clearly doing a isser. But hacha, over here in this case, mi yemed daruvi yarev. Who says that he mixed in this extra? Oh, over here. Okay, so that's the pshat in the Gemara. This is the answer to your question. I didn't spell it out before properly. What the Gemara is saying over here is that it's possible when there was extra mixed in, more than the usual amount, maybe he didn't mix in at all. Maybe what happened over here was, even though usually only a quarter of impurities are mixed in, but maybe over here in this case it was a dirty place, it was a dirty field, and there was more mixed in, and he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't realize, Pasha didn't realize there was extra mixed in, but it has nothing to do with him. So therefore over here, we can't give him a knas to say that you have to allow now the buyer to clear it all out. Toshimami Seifa, the Gemara says, what does it say in the Seifa of that Mishnah regarding a person that's lending money with ribis? The Chachamim say, Goive esakeren, that this star with the ribis, we do allow him to collect the principal of the loan, but ve'ena goive es ribis. He only can't collect the ribis. So here we see that we don't give a knas for what's allowed. What's allowed is allowed, and the ribis that's not allowed, that he can't collect. So over here, we should say in our case as well that the more the extra impurities he can clean out, but the reiva, which is what's usually expected, and that he's meichel, that you can't clear out. There's no knas on this. Says the Gemara, Hachi hashte, you can't compare to there because Hasam vadai karne da teiruhu. Over there, the principle of the loan, that's definitely allowed. So therefore that we don't give him a knas for. Hacha, over here, the reason there's a knas for the whole thing, because mi yemer the kululei aruv. Maybe it's possible, when we see that there's extra impurities, it's actually possible that he mixed in the entire thing over here. When we see extra, it's possible that it was all pure, and he went and mixed in the whole thing. So therefore we give him a knas on the entire thing. Therefore, you can't compare. Just to mention what Taisus over here discusses, one of the things Taisus discusses here, Barichas Benegay, to this star with the loan and ribis in it. So the discussion of Taisus is, how could you collect anything with this shtar if the Eidim that signed on the shtar were over a Isser, and therefore the shtar is not a good shtar b'chlal. The halacha by Ribbis is, not only the lender and the borrower are over an Isser, if you remember we learned in the Gemara Bava Basra, the Eidim that signed the shtar are also over a Isser as well. So meaning if they were over a Isser, so then their signatures on the shtar is puzzled, because they were over on a Isser. That's the discussion in Taisus. So one of the answers that Taisus says is that it has to be a case where these Eidim were threatened, that if you're not going to sign, then I'll kill you. So therefore they signed it, and the signatures is considered to be a good signature because they weren't over on any Isser. And therefore there's the discussion of whether you can collect the loan or the ribbis or not.